Hi, I'm Juanita from Nearby Artisans, and I'm going to show you how you can make your own buffalo plaid for backgrounds, for sublimation printing, for print and cut, or you can even turn it into a JPEG and use it for monograms or to cut out shapes. And so I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that and some of the things that I've done with the Buffalo Plaid. I'm going to go ahead and open up a file that I've been working on for my daughter. This is a Buffalo Plaid that I made to go with my daughter's mascot. This was from the university she went to, and I didn't want to get a Buffalo Plaid that was kind of close or sort of close or you know, similar. I wanted the exact colors. I wanted this exact gold. So I created the Buffalo Plaid. I used the dropper to get the exact colors, and I came out with a really nice Buffalo Plaid that I can use for sublimation printing, and I can make myself a nice big piece of cloth here to use for the things that I'm making for her. So I'm going to show you how to make your own. The diagonal stripes for the Buffalo Plaid, that is these stripes right here. Let me go in. A Buffalo Plaid has two solid colors, and then one of the squares has the two different colors in stripes. And I'm going to go ahead and make 2-inch squares because they're easier to see. And if you want 10 stripes in there, you're going to want to have the stripes be 0.20 inches wide, 0.2. And if you want 20, so you'd have a much tinier stripe in here, you would say you want the 0.10. And this might be the 20 stripes, but we're going to only work with 10. So I'm going to go ahead and close this one. And I'm just going to work with this blank screen right here. So I am just going to make a square, and I want it to be 2 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and put 2 and 2 and lock that in. Now I'm sometimes going to use the icons on the side panel, and sometimes I'm going to use them up here. I use both interchangeably. I don't have a preference. It's just wherever my mouse is headed at the time. So I'm going to go ahead and make myself a couple of these. And I'm going to pick the colors that I want to use. I'm going to go ahead and use fall colors. So I'm going to go ahead and use a red, orange, and a nice brown color. And at this point, I could go ahead and I could change my line colors to be the same colors as the colors inside. And but for now, I'm just going to go ahead and leave it like it is. Now I want to have a third square, so I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this, but I don't want it to have a color. I am going to create a grid that is going to be the lines that I'm going to use for my diagonal stripes. And so I am going to go ahead and, it doesn't matter the width, but I'm going to go ahead and say 6 inches. And I'm going to take I'm going to unlock that. And again, it was 0.2 if I only want to have 10 lines. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to duplicate that. I'm going to get a column of 4. I'm going to highlight all of that, and I am going to replicate that, and I want now a column of 3. I don't want it too long. And so now what I want to see is if I turn this way, is that long enough to cover it? And it's not. So I'm going to go ahead and get one more of the bottom columns. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that and duplicate below. And again, just making sure that if this is at an angle, that it will cover that, and it does. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and magnify that, and I want to get rid of every other one of these stripes. So I am going to get rid of that one, this. You could also go in and get these stripes, and you could use another tool in there, but I'm just going to do it this way for now. I'm going to go ahead and group that. I'm going to rotate it 45 degrees counterclockwise, and I am going to give it a color. The color is not going to be important. It's just so that I can see more of what I'm doing. And I'm going to give this one a color, I think just black. Now, I am going to bring this to the front. I'm going to put that right there, and I want to take these two and I want to align them in the center middle. And when I align that in the center middle, I just want to make sure, as I'm looking at it, that it is that it has the same amount of space from here to here, and that it is lined up in between two lines, so that it's perfectly in between these two. And that looks pretty good. I'm going to highlight all of those, and I'm going to divide. Now, I have tried many of the different crops and subtracts, and when I've done them, somehow there often ends up being gaps at the there ends up being gaps for the in between the lines, and because of what I'm doing and what I'm using this for, I do not want any gaps. So even though I've tried so many of these, this was the way that I really guaranteed that I wasn't going to get any gaps. I'm going to go ahead and take away the color of that. So I have just the lines. And now what I'm going to do is, this is the only way that I've been able to be sure that I did not get white gaps in between them. Now you could try many ways and they may work, but this one will get you the no gaps, no white gaps in between. And if I'm doing sublimation printing, I don't want a white gap in between, or a gap of another color. So I'm going to carefully just go in, and I'm going to count as I go to make sure I'm clicking on the odd numbers as I count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And now I should be able to pull that away and see that every other one is there. I am going to group these. Even when I've made a duplicate copy and I go in, and I end up with the white gaps. So this is the best way to do it. It's tedious, but you only have to do it one time. So now I am going to go ahead and give each one of these a color. And these were just the basic, this was just this orange, red orange, and then this was just the brown. Make sure those are the same colors. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to overlap these. I am going to align them. I'm going to go in now and see there are no gaps. Even when I have duplicated, like duplicated them and deleted some, I ended up with gaps. This way I have no gaps. You have to just leave them together, and you have to click on every other one and group that one, and then you can pull it away and group the other one. But this is the way to be more certain that you don't have the gaps. So I'm going to go ahead and move this over here. And now as I use these, I'm just going to duplicate them instead of using the ones that are here. So now what I'm going to do is Buffalo Plaids are a solid and a stripe, a solid and a stripe in a row, and then the next color, the stripe in a solid. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I don't want to deal with this area that has this no cut, no print line right here. So I'm going to go ahead and put this at 1-1. And now I have another video where I show you how to use this. I really like this feature. This is where you can line things up and you can move things to a specific spot on this grid. And I'm going to use that because I just really like how it lines up, and you line that up with no white spaces in between. So I'm going to go ahead and move this to 1-1. So now my x-axis goes this way and my y goes downward. So I just have to make sure, I could even put a little cheat sheet up here that could say X across. So now what I want to do is, again, I wanted to get a duplicate of that. So now what I want to do is duplicate this one. I needed to group that first. So now what I want to do is get a duplicate of this. I want to line this up. If this was 1-1, this is going to be 3-1. So I want to line this up at 3-1. Okay, now what I'll do is I'm going to group those, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to replicate it. So I'm going to duplicate right. And now I have the beginning of my Buffalo Plaid. I'm going to go out there, and now I'm going to click on this one again, because this one is where you, if you have the solid, then the next one is the stripe. I'm going to duplicate this one. I'm going to line that one up right there. So I want to go ahead and line this up. If this one here was at 3-1, this would be at 3-3. For this corner right here. Right here will be 1-3. So let me put that at 1-3. And now this one will be at 3-3. And it just butts up right into that spot. And now I'm going to go ahead and group those two. And you'll do a lot of grouping and ungrouping with this. I'm going to go ahead and replicate that, and I'm going to duplicate right. And now I have a pretty good start here for my Buffalo Plaid. I do want one more over here. So now I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this. I'm going to put it over here at the end. And this one right here, it's at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9, 1. So I'm going to put that at 9, 1. And now this one will be, get a duplicate. And this will be at 9, 1, 2, 3. So 9, 3. And there I go. There's my first sections. And now all I have to do is group the entire section there. And I just have to replicate below. And I could do that again. Now I have my pretty good start of my Buffalo Plaid. At this point, I could just go ahead and save all of that. Of course, down here, I would probably want, if I was using this as the 12 by 12, I would probably get rid of this last line, and that way I have the whole border of the orange, or I could just as well have it all browns. But as it has turned out, it is the orange is the border. But what I want to do now is go ahead and turn this into a 1-inch. I want to turn these into 1-inch squares. So I'm going to go to this right here, this icon in transform, and I'm going to click on 50%. Now I have my 1-inch squares, and most Buffalo Plaids are 1 inch. And at this point, I can just go ahead and group all of that. And now here I can't replicate this right the way it is because it would replicate with red on red. And there's no mirroring that's going to work. So what I'd want to do is, if I'm continuing on out, I'm going to ungroup that. I'm going to get this, I'm going to ungroup that again. And I'm going to do it till just get this row right here. I'm going to move that out. And now I could group this and replicate right. And I could even replicate it a little more. Like say, I don't know if it's, let me ungroup that. And I think I could have 1, 2, 3, maybe 3. 1, 2, 3. So I can't do this one because that would be a stripe. So I'm just going to do these two. And replicate, duplicate right. And there I have that. I'm going to group this. I'm going to go ahead and replicate below. And now I have a really nice Buffalo Plaid section. I am going to ungroup it, get rid of that bottom row. And now I would go ahead and highlight all of that, group the whole thing, and I have a really nice Buffalo Plaid here. Now, there are the lines that are red that are cut lines. It's fine to leave them for cut lines if I'm going to go ahead and cut this out of vinyl. Now, this might seem like a lot to cut out, but these here is just, this is just a matter of stripping out these lines and just overlaying them with the other color, the browns. And it's easier than it looks. I've done it. I've seen a lot of people do a lot smaller pieces in weeding than these. And so if you don't mind that, but this is a nice big piece for sublimation printing or print and cut. So what I'm going to do now is I want to decide at this point, do I want the red lines to be red, the reddish color, or the brownish color? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pick one of the colors. Now this is time consuming. I'm going to speed it up, but when you're doing it, and you're doing the line coloring, you'll do it and then you have to wait for a substantial amount of time. So I'm going to go ahead and with my color picker pick the red, see how that looks. And now again, it's going to take some time. And now these lines, the lines are all this reddish orange color. And I could go ahead and even save this. Like I might just want to go ahead and copy that and save it on another page. And now I want to see how I like it with the lines being brown. And I think I like that better. And just so you know, I mean, that means that every line, the lines in between these are all brown and that. And we can kind of go in and we could get a copy of that again. Pull that in here. paste it, and then compare. And you can see that when the lines are brown, they're kind of more distinct. When they're orange, they're not so much. So I really kind of like that, the difference of the brown lines versus the orange lines. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete that because I have that on another page. So now I have this, and I can use this for, again, a background. I can use this for sublimation printing. I could use this for some kind of a border. I can take this knife and I can cut with the knife. Like I could just go ahead and cut across here and get separate sections, and it's going to take some time, but I can cut it and get some sections. What I can't do is create a shape and overlay it and expect it to have that shape. There are ways to do that, but they're not simple. So what I'm going to say is that if you want to use this and cut shapes out of this design and use it for just cut and print or sublimation printing, what you want to do is save this. I'm going to go ahead and cancel this because it does take some time. But you can it will slice with the knife. You know, you can cut, but you can't get it into a what I call a flat file, and that's a file with no cut lines. It no longer would recognize the cut lines. And how you do that is you save it as a JPEG. Now I have the business edition of Silhouette Studio, so I can save it directly right here as a JPEG. But if you don't have that ability, I'm going to show you how you can get around that with Microsoft Paint. If you don't have Microsoft Paint, you can get it from the Microsoft website. It's still free. You just download it, but most people do have some form of Microsoft Paint on their computers. I'm going to have to let this run its course. And now, as you can see, there are different sections of this. And you could go ahead and you could group those somehow, although I'm not sure how you would do that. But you can cut, and you could get rid of, say, part of this. But that's not what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to save this as a flat file. So if you can save this as a JPEG, because you have the business edition, you just go ahead and just say File, Save As. If you don't have that, then what you're going to want to do is get rid of your grid. And then you'll want to make this kind of as big as you can. I don't know if one more is past the size. So just save it like that. And now I am going to hit print screen. You can also use a snipping tool if you're familiar with that. I'm going to go to my paint down here, and I'm going to paste it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select just this section right here. We're going to crop it. And I actually think I want to get just that. Not that it'll matter when I get it into the Silhouette software, but I want just the actual Buffalo Plaid. And I'm going to save that. And now what I want to do is I would go to another screen here, and I would open. Now this is the Buffalo Plaid saved as a JPEG and pulled up into Silhouette Studio. And so some of the things you can do with this now, this is just a flat file. There's no ungroup. There's no paths. There's just nothing here. This is just the same as any other picture file. So, but what you can do with it is the same things you can do with picture files. For instance, I could create, let me move this out of the way. I could create a star. I'm going to get my grid back. And I'm going to line it up right there. I'm going to get this, pull this out. Make sure it's lined up right. Let's see. That looks pretty good. I can decide how many. I think I'll just go ahead and do that. Pull them in a little deeper. I'm going to make this a compound path. And now I'll go ahead and make it a little larger. And pull this behind it. And this is just to show you what you can do. And then just like any other JPEG file, you can just go ahead and align them and crop. And you get a nice Buffalo Plaid image there. And you could make, you know, like I said, a monogram. There's so many things you can do. And then you, of course, would print and cut, sublimation. You know, there's just so many things you could do with this. And it looks nice. And I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you try these things. Please check out the Nearby Artisans website. And there's an explanation on there what it's for. It's to let people around you know that you're there, know what you sell, know what you have, and to let you be in contact with other crafters in your area. And please watch the other YouTube videos. They're very informative. And again, thank you for watching.